this guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Presenting of petitions, the Honourable Member for Port Wellington.
Mr. Speaker, good to see you in the chair. Today I'm pleased to present a petition on behalf of petitioners in the riding of Perth-Wellington. The petitioners request that the government institute a citizens' assembly on electoral reform. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Présentation de pétition.
Presenting petitions. I recognize the Honourable Member from Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
To present a petition, I want to first thank the Canadian Alliance of British Pensioners, in particular Ian Andexter, who is a constituent in my riding. Mr. Speaker, over 113,000 British pensioners living in Canada are currently receiving a frozen UK pension. In the last 2 years, the UK state pension has increased 18.6% to keep up with inflation, yet British pensioners in Canada are receiving 0%. Canada annually indexes the CPP for Canadians who live in the UK, so there is no reciprocity. Recently, the UK sought the support of Canada to join the CPTPP, which was willingly given, and yet Canada has requested an end to this one-sided arrangement 5 times in the last 10 years. Overall, Mr. Speakers, I know I'm running out of time. The undersigned citizens and residents of Canada who receive a UK pension or will be eligible to draw a UK pension in the future call upon the Government of Canada to seek a meeting with officials in the UK Government to negotiate a standalone social security agreement to include uprating of UK pensions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
Présentation de pétition.
Presenting petitions. I recognize the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Today to present a petition from Canadians and people from the Nipissing area who are concerned about upcoming changes in legislation related to the medical assistance in dying maid. The petitioners call upon the House of Commons to reverse the law extending eligibility for maid to people with mental illness and their sole medical condition. Les pétitionnaires demandent à la Chambre.
The petitions are asking the House of Commons to reduce access to medical assistance in dying for those diagnosed solely with a medical illness. Presenting petitions, the Honourable, Parliamentary Secretary and Member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Table petition E4758. The petitioners are calling on the Government of Canada, particularly IRCC, to develop a list of laws that are known in repressive regimes like Russia to be used to persecute human rights defenders, democracy activists, and political dissidents. The petitioners are concerned that such laws, if they're deemed to have a Canadian equivalent, could be used to make someone inadmissible to Canada on the basis of a conviction just for defending human rights. I'd like to thank my constituent Maria Kartasheva, who is a new Canadian citizen, for bringing forward this petition to make sure that what happened to her never happens to anyone else. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Présentation de
Presenting petitions, the Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent, Leamington.
Mr. Speaker, I bring forward a petition to the attention of this chamber, spearheaded by the St. Michael's Roman Catholic Women's League, based out of Bridgetown, though many other Canadians have signed it. And they want to draw attention to the fact that the depiction of sexual violence and the access, particularly from young people, is far too easy in this country. It's not protected by any effective age verification methods. And so they want to make this House fully aware that this is an important health and public safety concern, and therefore they are encouraging us to adopt Bill S-210, which would protect young persons from exposure to pornography. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Presenting petitions virtually, the Honourable Member for Windsor West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This petition I'm tabling is for the Government of Canada to apologize for Black Canadians for its royal and chattel enslavement in Canada. Specifically, 4 items are noted. Chattel enslavement was initiated over 400 years ago to assemble a cheap, ready, usable workforce who were dehumanized and dispersed globally. Second, in colonial Canada, King Louis XIV's Code Noir became law in 1743, which required both Indigenous and Black slaves brought into the French colony to be considered the possessions of those who purchased them. 3, Great Britain further supported the practice of chattel enslavement after the French in 1759. 1849, and fourth, the following Slavery Abolition Act in 1834, and after the Dominion of Canada was created in 1867, systemic racism continued, thereby perpetuating the practice, discriminating beliefs in society, institutions, organizations, and legislations which treated blacks as marginal and inferior. Therefore, these petitioners are calling on the Government of Canada to finally do the right thing and apologize to Black Canadians for their centuries of mistreatment and racism in Canada. And I thank Elise Harding-Davis for bringing this petition forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
You know, just recently, WestJet announced new flights, new international flights, along with some domestic flights, one of them being direct to Ottawa, for example. But it's encouraging when international airlines actually expand services, and that's what this petition is all about, Mr. Speaker. What they're asking for is to have airliners take a look at, along with the government, at ways in which we can enhance flight services, direct flight services to Europe in particular, India, Mr. Speaker, ideally, and I speak to WestJet and others to encourage them to consider looking at those direct flights from Winnipeg to India direct. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Présentation de pétition, l'honorable député de North Okanagan, Shuswap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to rise today and present a number of petitions on behalf of members of the North Okanagan, Shuswap, and Canadians. The first one being stating that whereas Canadians with mental health issues should be provided with treatment and support, and mental illness can be complex and can include suicidal thoughts and symptoms. Therefore, the undersigned citizens and residents of Canada call upon the House of Commons to reverse the law extending eligibility for MAID to people with mental illness as their sole medical condition. The next petition I have is again signed by residents of the North Okanagan, Shuswap, and Canadians, stating that sexually explicit material, including demeaning material and material depicting sexual violence, can easily be accessed on the internet by young persons. They therefore call on the petitioners call on the House of Commons to adopt Bill S-210, protecting young persons from exposure to pornography. The final three petitions, Mr. Speaker, again, I've rising numerous times on this issue. They present the petitions because they're concerned about the way this Liberal NDP government has overreached into their lives, especially when it comes to access to natural health products. The petitioners call on the Minister of Health to work with the natural health products industry and adjust Health Canada's cost recovery rates to accurately reflect the clear operations be run smoothly. Thank you.
I'm rising because nearly 2,000 signatories are calling on the government to uphold and protect abortion rights in Canada. Conservative members have presented anti-abortion legislation, and with the rise of anti-abortion legislation in the United States, Canadians must be vigilant in upholding this vital right. The lives of women and gender minorities rely on access to safe and legal abortions. I'm also presenting a paper to petition where constituents have signed on the topic of the mistreatment and discrimination that people experiencing homelessness and the unhoused populations face. While government is funding NGOs and providing the funding, petitioners are calling for housing-first solutions and are concerned about the violence that this population faces from police and other people with more power. The petition calls on the House of Commons to implement a federal law against discrimination against homeless people in Canada and to make it illegal to confiscate their property. Mr. Speaker, I'm rising to present a petition with well over 500 signatures. The right to bargain is a constitutional right, and the petitioners are calling on the Canadian Air Transport Security Authority to cease interference with industrial relations and allow the contractors to meet their duties as an employer, to reverse the decision by CATSA to disqualify 27 screening officers at the Victoria Airport. These workers were unjustly terminated without due process. They are asking for justice.
Présentation de pétition, l'honorable député de Kingston-Les-Îles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two petitions to present today. The first is on behalf of constituents who are calling to the attention of the government, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, who have warned us repeatedly that rising temperatures over the next 2 decades will bring widespread devastation and extreme weather. And these petitioners are specifically calling on the government of Canada to move forward immediately with bold emissions caps for the oil and gas sector that are comprehensive in scope and realistic in achieving the necessary targets that Canada has set to reduce emissions by 2030. The second petition I'm presenting today, Mr. Speaker, actually is from a bunch of farmers in the, primarily from the riding to the north of mine, which is Lanark Frontenac Kingston. These are farmers that are bringing to the attention of the government that the abattoir that was located at the Joyceville institution was shut down a number of months ago, and as a result, there's no longer options to utilize an abattoir within a local area of Kingston, and as such, these farmers have to bring their cattle to abattoirs that are a much further distance away. So they're calling on the government of Canada to explore all options to ensure that the abattoir located at Joyceville Institution is reopened to address the issues noted above.
De pétition, l'honorable député de Calgary, Shepherd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad I finally caught your eye. So I'm tabling two petitions today on behalf of constituents in my riding. The first petition calls on the federal government, which has already issued sanctions against the Russian Federation, to also name the Russian Federation as a foreign state supporting terrorism and to list them as a state sponsor of terror under specific legislation related to terrorism and the State Immunity Act as well. The second petition is one very dear to my heart because I'm a member of the Calgary Co-op. The Government of Canada has outlawed, made illegal, single-use plastics across the country as of December 2023, including Calgary Co-op's 100% compostable shopping bags. This is despite the fact that the Calgary Co-op states that their bags contain no plastic, including no plastic in the ink. And those plastic bags, those non-plastic bags, are engineered to break down at the local composting facility that the City of Calgary owns within a 28-day time frame. There is no waste, no plastic. Calgary Co-op says their bags are extremely popular with their members, are often reused as bin liners for household organic waste, constituting a second use. And Calgary Co-op has successfully kept over 100 million plastic bags out of landfills with the use of their compostable shopping bags. They're also signaling to the Government of Canada that this is an unnecessary ban that could send signals that stifle the adoption and development of environmentally responsible products. Therefore, the petitioners are asking for the following: that the Government of Canada recognize that compostable bags do not constitute single-use plastic and are therefore worthy of an exemption for this ban. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.